Alright guys, today we got Luan from Sewt. She makes women's clothing. Women's suits.
Women's suiting.
Just suits and like shirts or anything? Or?
We're starting to have a little bit more product development now. So women's blouses, blazer dresses, and some sheath dresses. So a lot of things coming in apart. But yeah, women's made to measure suiting.
And we got Sewt's executive fashion designer in here as well.
Yeah, so Patricia was kind enough to come along. She actually has no choice. She's tied to the hip with me for a little bit. So yeah, she just came on board. So super excited to have her.
So tell us more about yourself and also of Sewt, how it started and what exactly you guys do.
Yeah, I guess I'm gonna ramble. So just cut me off anytime.
100%, go ahead.
Yeah, so like I was saying before, I worked in commercial real estate for a long time. That was my first industry that I entered in after my undergraduate degree. So I got my undergrad at the University of Manitoba, Commerce. And I fell into real estate, loved the industry, and I moved out to Vancouver, 7 years now, I guess? And so I've always been in real estate. And then I decided last year to do my MBA because, been in industry for a long time, kind of wanted to change, see what else is out there. So that was on the program. And how Sewt started was, it was actually just a school project. We were in the halls at Queen's in Kingston, Ontario, and we were all kind of just talking about how all the guys were still wearing suits, first week of classes, still trying to dress to impress everybody. And the girls were just kind of standing around like this and saying, well, where do we buy our clothes? And it was still Aritzia, it was still Dynamite, it was still the same places that we were buying our stuff during undergrad. And so I thought that was kind of silly. And my mom was a seamstress growing up, so I was always exposed to, machines and sewing and all that. I just never had an interest in fashion until kind of this idea started about in January. And then we had our class called Entrepreneurship Innovation, where they tried to cultivate or try to teach us how typical entrepreneurship, whatever that might be, into a framework in class. And so I pitched this idea for women's made-to-measure suiting. At the time, nobody had done it yet. There's a lot of other companies that are kind of doing stuff. Like I'm sure you've heard of other companies.
They come in all the time. They knock on the door.
Yeah,
they walk in. She walks in. Let me measure you.
Yeah, probably. But yeah, but they're all for men, and the whole background is for guys. And I think we're an underserved market. Like in my MBA class, 116 students, 50% of us are women, and we're all in director roles, VP roles, all management or senior management, and you have disposable income to go buy those kind of things. And so I pitched the idea, and it kept winning every round. And then we had to pitch to our class in October of 2018. And by that time, I had received some funding from the BDC, or Business Development Bank of Canada, by accident, because I had submitted our business plan thinking I just wanted them to take a look at it, just to see their thoughts, because they see entrepreneurs and business plans all the time.
Was this funding or grant?
Funding.
It was funding, okay.
Funding, yeah. So I had submitted it to them thinking that it was just to do a quick glance, and then about a week later I had a term sheet in front of me saying, we really think this is a good idea. We think you're the right person to execute. You should take a look at it.
You know how hard a business loan is to get? That's good for you.
Yeah, well, thank you. Well, I didn't realize how hard it was to get, because for me it was just...
That's my business, right? I do a lot of business loans.
Oh, yeah.
And it's next to impossible, especially for a startup.
No cash flow, no
asset,
experience.
No security or anything.
No, nothing. And I that was not my background. My background was real estate, right? So anyway, I had that term sheet a week later from that, so I sat on it because I didn't know what I was going to do with it. And then we presented to our class in October. And so after our presentation, I actually asked my professor, what would you do with this? And he said, take that money and run as far away as you possibly could with it. So I did. So I took the funding, not actually still thinking if I was going to do it or not, because again, most MBAs, at least from what my experience, they don't typically go into entrepreneurship. Typically you get a master's degree to go and become a VP or get promoted or all that stuff. And that's what I was thinking I was going to do. So in December, we had our last classes, and I was still sitting on that term sheet. And I had accepted it at that time. And then December came around, last week of classes, and then I decided, you know what? I'm going to give myself up until convocation. So May 2019 was a convocation at Queen's. I was saying, this is the last official thing I'm going to do with this university. Let me see if I can get this launched, and anything after that I probably won't do it, right? I gave myself a timeline of 5 months, see where I can take it. So yeah, I did. On May 15th we launched. It's been about 40 days, give or take now. So, and it's going fairly well. So I think, does that answer your question of
No, that's great.
That was a long 5 minutes.
No, it was perfect. Yeah. Where's mom from?
Sorry?
Your mom?
My mom, from the Philippines.
Philippines. So she was a seamstress in Philippines or here?
Here in Winnipeg.
Okay.
So for 30-something years, she worked as a seamstress in Winnipeg. My dad was a cab driver. I came from typical immigrant family or parents where they, work the butt off to get their kids into school and hope that they turn out okay.
Oh, that's good.
I think we turned out okay. So
who's sewing now? So when an order comes in?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so Patricia, our new designer, because she has all the skill set, we are actually getting some equipment so we can do more of it in-house. But we send all our stuff out overseas. They're the experts. And I think a lot of people have this notion about sending stuff overseas or getting your clothing overseas. But the thing is, they've been doing it for years in terms of
They talk about it, but they all do it. So don't even worry about that.
Yeah, fair enough. But so there's a notion of that. But yeah, we send it overseas. But Patricia is she can build a whole suit by hand. So
oh, you can.
She can.
Because my thesis collection.
Yeah, her thesis was all by hand. So we're starting to get into that route. But there's a whole big difference between made to measure and bespoke. Bespoke is a whole nother level of it, and I'm sure you know.
No, sorry, what's that?
So bespoke, and Patricia, jump in whenever you want here, but bespoke is basically a process where sometimes you can get a suit between 6 to 8 months. It's starting not from a pattern, but it's starting from your own unique measurements, where they'll do a basting fitting, however you pronounce it. But it's all hand sewn. It takes a long time, and it'll take 3 or 4 fittings. Whereas made to measure, you're starting with kind of a general wide range of patterns essentially, and then you measure yourself, and then we'll find the pattern that fits to you, and then we'll go in. So it still takes a couple weeks for that. It's more than ready to wear, but it's less than bespoke, and that's our middle, because we want to make suit accessible for people like us, because bespoke will cost you what, $5,000, $6,000, and then Aritzia, those pricing points, and then we're kind of in the middle ground. So yeah,
the ones I go to, used to, I don't wear suits anymore, is the website, pick the design you want, right? Then they come in, they measure you, and then color buttons and all that, and then pay 2 weeks, 3 weeks later, you get it in the mail.
Yeah.
Try it out. If it's okay, good to go. If not, they'll come remeasure you again and do alteration and good to go.
Yeah, it's a similar model to us. I think we do ours a little bit differently, just because. How do I put this? Because women's bodies are so much more unique. Sorry, not like you guys are.
No, I get it.
But there's just a lot more variation in terms of women's bodies. And so to try to fit into 12, 13, 14 patterns like typical guys' patterns, it's a lot harder. So as much as we're typically made to measure, we're almost on the more bespoke side of made to measure, if that makes sense. We're a little bit more, if there's someone that comes to us that's so unique that they don't even fit that, they're still considered made to measure for us, but we'll create a brand new pattern just for them. So, yeah.
So my question is, now I go back to my dad's age. He wears the same suit. He's got a sports jacket and he's got like 3 suits. And he probably bought those back in the 70s and 80s. Yeah. Same thing, right? My uncles wear the same thing, right? I got suits for the last 10 years. Right, I kind of changed mine over time, but if I go to my closet, take it, I was like, oh yeah, I remember buying this 10 years ago.
Yeah.
How often do ladies change?
Yeah.
So this is a business that if they change because of fashion and color all the time, I think this is a great model that you guys have here.
Yeah, so you can kind of go into both sides of the spectrum there, because women's closets, we have a lot more variation. Are huge. And so, suits typically for a professional woman, the percentage of closet, I don't know, it can range from 3% to 5% of your entire closet of women's suiting. And so we want to be that 3 to 5%, or whatever that percentage is, that you go to and wear the women's suits of your closet kind of thing. To your point, it probably changes a lot more often than guys. You'll have your standard, your black suit, your gray suit, whatever your standard office suits, but because women have a lot more flexibility in terms of their fashion, like I'm wearing one right now, and this is considered a full-on suit, but you wouldn't necessarily classify this as a typical, your 1950s working woman suit, right? So yeah, there's definitely a lot more turnover. Like ask Patricia and I, we've started this officially 2 months ago, but I've been prototyping since last year. And in my closet now I have 30 different suits, because I'm like, oh, I like this, I like that, I like this. And I don't even have a black suit because for whatever reason I didn't get that color, but there's just so many more ways to play with something that's typical for you. And once you've gone over the mental hurdle of understanding how to order something custom, you realize it's so hard to go back to a regular off the rack because it just doesn't fit the way you want.
Yeah, exactly. No,
right?
I get that.
Yeah.
Yeah, once it fits you perfectly, the confidence comes down. You wear, you feel good.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
get that.
Yeah. So to answer your question, there's unlimited potential in how many times. It's the getting someone who doesn't wear a suit will be the hardest struggle. I don't think we're aiming for that target market, but who knows? Maybe they didn't consider a suit because they just thought it was like 1950s, whoever, working woman suiting, and then they see that you can turn it into something more fashionable. Maybe they become a convert, and that's hopefully the goal eventually.
So is that the number between 3 to 5% is usually business attire suits in a woman's closet?
I was just kind of ballparking it really. The women's suit market as of last year was a $200 million industry. Women's
That's North America?
Canada, just Canada.
Oh, Canada. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, and then for women's apparel, it's a $6.1 billion industry. So even if we took a percentage of that market, we're not a tech company, we're not biotech, we're not trying to get a $100 million valuation. But if we can grow it to the point where we become synonymous with that, with women's suiting, I'm more than happy to call that a day. So
I look at my closet right now. It's jeans, t-shirt, and suits and shirts. And I say 50% is suits. And
for you?
Yeah, but I never wear it.
Can I ask you why you don't?
I just don't need it anymore.
Yeah, fair. Yeah.
Before, there's people coming into the office, and we have to go and meet. Today it's not done. It's all done through emails and phone call and LinkedIn messages or Facebook, things like that. So people just don't want to meet.
Yeah.
So, and then I'd rather sit here in jeans and t-shirt because I'm more comfortable.
Yeah, fair.
Right? And eventually it changed. 10 years ago when I started down here, it was always suit and ties. You just walk down the street, that's all you see. Now you don't. Then the tie was gone. They just had a shirt and the suit on, and then all of a sudden the jacket is gone now. And then it's got polo shirt and still dress pants. So it just depends on the area. And we just kind of changed.
It's funny that you say that because a lot of guys will say that that's the trend they've been noticing as well. The trend that maybe I've seen and a couple other people have seen on our side is that women are, I know blazers are really in for women, like suits and the power suit. Maybe it's just the sign of the times. A lot more women are coming into management positions. A lot more women are doing their MBAs. In our program for ours, we have 50% women, but maybe 10 years ago, that wasn't the case. It was 70-30 at the time. So it's a different kind of time, and maybe it's all coincidental that we've started this company during, all the Me Too movements and all the kind of just attention that women are now growing more into management roles or into business or whatever it is. And so we're actually doing a pop-up in Toronto next month, August 18th to 23. 19 to 23?
19.
18. Yeah.
I seen that. Yeah, 19.
Yeah, you got my dates.
August 19.
But even maybe it's a sign because we're on the West Coast, but definitely in Toronto, and that's why I'm going out there, because the amount of people that have said, "Hey, when are you going to be out there?"
Toronto, Montreal, the East Coast is different than West Coast.
100%.
You can't compare those two.
Absolutely.
When I go down to San Fran, or if I'm in Seattle or LA, this is what people dress like.
Yeah.
Now, if you go to New York, you go to Toronto, you go to Montreal, it's a little different.
Yeah.
Miami's a little different too, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
It suits, but it's a little more
it's a little hotter down
there. Lighter colors and things, right?
Yeah, no, and I think right now, because we're such a lean startup, we can experiment with what that looks like. So maybe Vancouver, this is my home, and I don't plan on moving anytime soon. But if the business takes me out to the east, I'm more than, and it's a plane.
You got an online business.
It's online too.
It's online, right?
Yeah,
you can have pop-up shops anywhere.
Yeah, I think with our business too, because it's we're a premium bridge brand, because we're not relatively cheap, but we're also not relatively super luxury. But there is some hurdles that you need to get over in terms of how people act and how consumerism happens online with our price point, and I completely understand that. And I think there's this whole movement of retail that are online commerce, and they want to come back into brick and mortar. Look at Warby Parker, where they're completely online, and now they're brick and mortar on West 4th there. It's an experience.
You know why?
I'm going to say no.
Because, and we're going to see this more and more, everyone's going online, right? Everyone's going to Shopify, they're going to Amazon, they're going to their own site. Now, it's leaving a lot of Robson Street types of retail free. There's going to come a point in time where these landlords that are sitting with these real estate properties are going to say, holy shit, we can't afford to have this thing being empty. So it started charging $5,000 per unit or 20,000, whatever it is. We're gonna cut this down. They're gonna cut it to a point where retailers are gonna look at it like, you know what? It makes sense for us to go back to the store.
Yeah, that's the hope, and I'm really hoping that that's the case.
It's gonna happen.
Yeah,
it will happen.
Yeah.
When you have that much real estate just sitting there, retail,
Yeah.
right? Not office, retail,
Yeah.
just sitting there doing nothing. And somebody comes in there and says, we're gonna bid low. It's great for Starbucks today. Starbucks can sit there like, we are anchor tenants. We can tell you guys what we want to pay.
Yeah.
It's been empty for how long?
Yeah.
Right? We're gonna drop the price, and I think that's gonna be coming here in the next 5, 10,
yeah, that's a hope.
7 years.
It's definitely the hope. Robson definitely has been a different Robson in the last
Main
5
Street
years.
has been the same in certain areas. If you get rid of cafes and things like that, antique stores, but retail is gone.
Yeah.
In a lot of places. But we're talking about Vancouver. When you look at this globally, look at New York, right? San Fran, LA, all this stuff has happened.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So-
No, we're hoping that it goes.
Yeah. So
Goes our way.
what's the process now? Somebody wants, I want a suit. I just got a new job.
Yep.
I'm Dylan's assistant. Dylan wants me to wear a suit now, right? and she has to come in wearing a suit. Right?
He's hoping for an assistant.
So what happens?
Yeah, so typically...
and Dylan's the boss, not me.
Gosh,
that's because
I'm
Dylan will be the
Dylan.
one that's going to be taking care of that person.
Got it.
Yeah.
So typically someone will either probably see our website first. That's typically where people will go, where people will go first. So they'll look at our website, they'll see some of our stuff there. So they either like the stuff online and they're more than comfortable going there. They see it. So what we have are curated and custom designs. So curated designs, because there's 10 million, and I'm sure you've gone through this experience buying a suit, but there's 10 million ways you can customize your own suit.
Mm-hmm.
Lapels, notches, buttons, whatever it is. So we've curated them and kind of pared them down into styles that we thought would typically work in any office. And then we give you choices of linings, buttons, and fabrics, and you have your own measurements. You order online, we'll ship it out to you, kind of thing. And then we have a custom. So anything online, we can always do a notch above in terms of what we can change, because we could take this and we could change it into anything you want, kind of thing. So if you go custom, come see us, or we'll Skype call with you, and then we'll walk through all of the myriad of choices if you really want to. We had a girl last week, she was in our office for 2.5 hours because we were going through every possible thing. So there's kind of 2 starting points, and then from there we have an office on Main and 5th. So it's a nice big studio loft. Come in there, we'll have a glass of wine, hang out, and then we can even just walk you through a curated selection and say, this is what we think will look good on you. These are the fabrics, because I know a lot of people want to see and touch and feel still.
Yeah.
Completely understand.
Yeah.
I do too. It's hard for me to buy a dress online without seeing it too. I get it. So come to our office, we'll go through that entire selection with you. So Toronto, we're basically taking that same model, going out there, and we have a pop-up location there in the financial district. But because our model is so lean, we could literally do that in kind of any city. So yeah, that's that. And turnaround time will typically is 4 weeks, sometimes less. Vancouver will be less because Vancouver, but we typically 4 weeks.
I've been seeing over the last couple of years trailers that they convert into retail.
Yeah.
And like down in the convention center, I see quite a bit. I was in North Vancouver this weekend, seen it there. I just love those,
Yeah.
You drop the back, and then people walk in. You got everything set up there. Your purchase sales, your
Everyone's getting
payment,
creative.
everything's there, and you go, and you just go from place to place and park.
Yeah.
And I think that's a good investment for somebody that is online, just before they go into retail and have this, and you can tour different events.
It's actually on our list of because I saw that at, I think it was Enchanted or something, one of the winter festivals here and I remember seeing there was essentially a clothing store in a trailer like that, and I guess they just pack up and then drive to the next location, next festival, or whatever it is. So.
Every weekend for the last 4 or 5 weekends, I've been seeing it at the convention center, right next to the Straw Building.
I should take a look at that.
Yeah, go there, take a look at it. If you're going down Cordova, make a right turn on Thurlow.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
And it's right in the corner. They got a bunch of trees and benches, and it's right there. It's parked there,
We might
and then they
do
have.
a walkover after.
No, I don't see them on the weekdays. Just on the weekends.
Oh, okay.
And I think they're not retail. What they are is because I see a bunch of treadmills up front. So you can go in and buy like probably, resistant bands in there or probably workout gear.
Yeah.
And then they have, the training going on there. That's what I've been seeing the last couple of days. But it's set up exactly like, they have clothes in there, right?
Yeah.
But it's just workout gear.
It's very different experiences now. I think every brand, whatever it is that you're offering, they want to offer something different and unique. And what does that mean? That means some kind of experience that they associate with your brand. So, I think Dyson back in the day, they did that because they would go to malls and they would have the vacuums there and people would test it out. But that was new and innovative at the time. That was 20 years ago now. But that's every generation has something like that. So in terms of experience,
every brand has that too.
Yeah, every
right?
brand. Yeah.
I think. There probably people did it before Coke, but Coke and Pepsi challenge. Remember that? Oh, that was Pepsi that did that.
Yeah, that was a long time ago.
That was, yeah.
Yeah.
I was a kid back then.
Blast from the past.
Yeah.
I haven't heard those two words in a long time.
But
Pepsi challenge, right?
Pepsi challenge, yeah. All right, Dylan, what do we got for
Well, I
questions?
got one question for myself because my girlfriend, she's from Sydney, Australia.
Oh, yeah.
And so we have conversations about the state of fashion in this city. I'm not a huge fashion person, but she, dabbles. And she just thinks it's appalling the way that people dress in this city.
In Vancouver, it's a little casual.
And so I just maybe if you want to comment on that, what do you think? And is this something that is this a trend? Is it just like we talked before? You were talking before. It's like West Coast style, right? It's different.
Yeah.
What is that? Is it Vancouver alone?
Yeah.
Can it change? Is there hope for this city?
Ooh, that's a tough question because Vancouver, like you said, it's a lifestyle thing. It's a comfort thing. But it's also a nature of what do you do for work? Are you client facing? Because it doesn't matter if you're from Vancouver or not. If you're a lawyer or a commercial real estate broker or whatever it is, I think how you present yourself is a function of how much respect that you're giving to the other person. So you'll never see a lawyer or a real estate broker or any of those people coming in with a t-shirt and yoga pants, typically. Not most people. I don't know. You know what?
This office is different, right? those are my clients.
Maybe from my experience, it could be completely different for someone else. But from my experience, especially people coming into, building their careers still, they're not the top echelon. They're not the Steve Jobs of the world. They're not making billions of dollars yet, but they're still trying to prove to the world, whatever that means, because what you put on is essentially a costume. So in terms of what Vancouver, it's how you want to present yourself in whatever industry that you're in. So Vancouver typically, and like you said, we're casual, and I get it. Lululemon, Aritzia, we're the technical fabric people, and that's why we can't actually manufacture a lot on the West Coast, because all the expertise in terms of like people like Patricia, they're in technical gear, and so it all pushes it out either to the east or overseas. So I think Vancouver majority will always be casual, but it's gonna be casual, but you're gonna get people like me and people like my lawyer friends, my investment bankers. They're gonna dress up. So if I'll take that smaller, whatever that smaller market is, I'll take it.
Yeah. I'm actually quite upset right now.
About what?
That Dylan sits next to me for 2 years and never asked me a fashion question. What the hell, man? I can't answer that one, man. We're on the West Coast.
I see your New Zealand shirt. I need to ask about this.
Yeah, I got like 3 t-shirts in there right there. You can see peace.
All right, so we'll do a couple of Q&A. Okay, so this is from...
Actually, no. Let's just go on a little more on that. I've been to majority of every single small towns from here all the way down to Mexico.
Wow.
Right?
Okay.
Minus LA, San Francisco, Seattle, and Vancouver. Those are the major hubs. Mm-hmm. Even within those hubs, you really don't see suit and ties. Even the banking district, you'll probably see a suit. But the tie days are gone. Yeah. And I would say out of that, probably the biggest banking will probably be done in San Francisco. Mm-hmm. Don't see that. Silicon Valley is hoodies and tees, t-shirts, and it's just West Coast. Yeah. Right. I think this started from day one when people were coming from the East Coast over to the West Coast. Like, let's go to the West, let's chill, and the West side. We can go there, not dress up, and it's just gonna be a little different
lifestyle. Yeah.
Dressing. Look, I dress like this in the office. If I'm going to somebody's wedding, it's a suit and tie. Yeah. Right? Yeah. Out of respect, right?
Exactly.
If I'm meeting with, if I'm going somewhere because I need, a few $1,000,000, I'm going based on depends. If I'm going to go see a venture capital guy out of Silicon Valley, no, I'm not. Yeah. But if I'm seeing some, Bay Street or Wall Street guy or age of like 50 plus, then I will.
Yeah, you got to know your audience.
It all comes down to audience. I get respect because I know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Right. So when
Yeah.
somebody comes in here, it's like, oh, this guy's in a suit. He's not in a suit and tie. He's in a t-shirt.
Yeah.
I start talking.
Yeah.
And all that stuff. I hate it when somebody fakes it till they make it, and they think wearing that suit is gonna help them. It's actually not. Right. Wearing that suit is fine, but as long as you say, hey, look, I'm here learning.
Yeah.
I'm going to shut up. I'm going to learn here for the next 10 years, right? And I think that's where the respect comes from.
Yeah, no, I completely get that. It's just, you also sometimes don't have that extra 30 seconds to convince someone that you know what you're talking about either. And so...
It's just listening then, because you'll never convince them.
Fair enough. But I mean, okay, so when you go to a networking event, for example, and you go into a room,
don't go.
you have... Well, you don't go, okay? But
Networking is on DM today, right?
Yes. Yeah, I guess for some. For a lot of other people, it's not. Like, real estate still, that's heavy networking events. And I think everyone bashes them, but they still show up and they still go there. And I think it's first impressions regardless. So, yeah, that's kind of where
I get it. For confidence sake, that's a
Yeah.
good thing.
Yeah.
I used to have a suit hanging there, and then...
Now it's a...
it's gone. I don't know when I got rid of it.
Well, yeah, your body's your suit, I guess.
No, that's not the suit, man. Come on. Let's go.
From D. I haven't studied fashion design, but I want to start clothes branding. Is it possible?
Clothes branding, as in sticking your branding on
That's
clothing?
what it says, clothes branding.
Well, if I...
You could go further and say, like, could you get into this industry of fashion design without having to go?
Yeah.
If you want to jump in, you can.
Yeah, absolutely. So she went...
Come on up. Come on up. This is perfect questions for you,
actually,
too.
yeah, because she's gone into and got formal training in fashion, whereas I don't.
Yeah.
So maybe we play off of each other here.
Yeah. If you got something...
do you want to go first?
Well, lots of people have also started brands, like companies, clothing brands, without like apparel industry background. And like you can do it. Like there's so many YouTube videos, Google.
Yeah. And to your point, I think if anyone wants to do something, if they want to do it badly enough, they can find the answers and find the right people. And so how I started was just asking anyone and everyone that would be willing to listen to me or have a call with me and provide some insight. And I was very lucky, maybe because I was a student, I was still doing my MBA. Everyone wanted to say, hey, I'm happy to sit down and have a coffee with you. But there were a couple people, pretty senior people in the industry, some working at Aritzia, some working at Lululemon. I'm not going to drop names for obvious reasons. But they sat down, they told me a lot of things that to help me get started, and then put me into different rooms and to get the conversation going. So that's how I met Patricia, because it was a consultant from another friend down the line who introduced me, and I started learning more about fashion and production, supply chain and manufacturing and all of that I didn't know prior to. So if you want to learn, you'll find a way, and just to dig. Like you said, everything's online, and you can find a lot of sources online in terms of internet, and then just going out there and talking to people, making those connections.
Yeah, or coming in and working for you.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
I think that's the best way, right?
Yeah,
Just going in and finding somebody that you want to, you're going to, going through your closet and look at a brand like, okay, is this a local brand? Could I reach out to them?
Absolutely.
Could I go and talk
Yeah.
to them? Could I see what they're doing? Could I, follow them around? And
That's a really good point.
and I
Yeah.
think that's the best way. That's the way I learn, right?
Yeah, a lot of people have asked me actually, why didn't you just take the money that you spent on your master's degree and just start a business right away? But for me, that's the process and the steps I had to go to get the confidence and for me to feel like I was ready to do it.
Your
just
learning
go
is
there.
different.
Yeah, my learning was completely different. And then some people will take that money and they'll go try 10 million businesses and be okay with that.
Mm-hmm.
So again, it's very unique to your own individual learning and your own process. So
As long as you know it yourself, that's what it comes down to.
yeah, self-awareness, knowing what you're better at, and that was my trajectory. And I always felt a little bit more comfortable because I like risk and I'm tolerant to risk, but I also saw that as a backup plan. Essentially, if this doesn't go well, guess what? I have a degree, I have all this stuff. Let me go work for whatever at that point. So that's my way of feeling comfortable enough to
Awesome.
take a leap.
No, I like
So,
that. Yeah.
This is from Max. I want to start my own shirt, hats, jackets business. What is the best way I can get in touch with people who can help me design my logo or design t-shirts?
There's tons of people out there. So it depends on kind of what route you want to go. If you want to get someone to design your logo, there's tons of graphic designers out there. I actually talked to a lot of different agencies and different scope. Some people quoted $50,000, some people quoted $500. So you're trying to find the sweet spot of who is right for what you're trying to do. So if it's just simply a logo, you know what your brand messaging is, you know what you want to give out to the world, then maybe it's a function of just hiring a graphic designer at $40 an hour and say, this is what I want for my logo. Or if you're completely starting from scratch, you don't know what your messaging is, you don't know what your branding is, then you're probably going to need someone more involved in terms of helping you walk you through that brand strategy. So it really depends on where you're trying to start from. At the time that I was starting, I already had by the time I left school in December, I already had 80% of a company on paper. It was the last 20% to execute. And that meant my branding, my strategy, my marketing, my vision, mission, values, all of that was already on paper, ready to go. So if you haven't done something like that, you don't necessarily need to, depending on how you want to approach it. If you want to just go in, lean startup, just figure it out right away, cool. But if you want to be a lot more methodical about it, you can. And that involves either involving more people or people with more experience, or you sit down there and you're writing a business plan and trying to figure out how that goes. In terms of actual designing, if it's, and Patricia jump in here, but if it's just t-shirts, from what I'm thinking is just logo and simple t-shirts, there's a lot of companies that will do pattern making for you. So you tell them what kind of pattern or whatever it is you want, and they'll work with you to get some prototypes out, and then you'll typically pay for the prototypes, of course, but that's how you start. Or you find a designer and hopefully get a tech pack or a package ready to go that you can go shop to other manufacturers. So
What's the guy's name?
Max.
Max. It's simple. Send Dylan a DM. He'll create the logo. Send Patricia an email. She'll create the design.
Hold on.
And then we'll do something else. We'll manage them. We'll manage them.
Okay, fine. But we're a small business. I don't know where Patricia's time is going. Hold on. You need to get out of here.
All right. From Gareth, should I invest in a social media manager or a course in social media management?
It's funny because I've been going through this question a lot. Where do you spend your time and your dollars, especially as a new startup? I think, and I feel like you guys can jump in whenever, but I think in the beginning, trying to understand how it all works first, because as soon as you start offloading it to other people, you're relying on their expertise and you're relying on them to pay attention to your brand without you knowing how it all works in terms of mechanisms, in terms of how do your KPIs work, how do you get followers, how do your algorithms work. So I think in the beginning I was like, oh, you know what, this is going to be too much work, I should outsource this to someone else. But now I think we've figured out what to outsource, and namely it's photography and videography for us, and then keeping everything else closer to the chest, because I personally want to understand where we're getting your organic followers, how we're doing that, and knowing your audience first and foremost. And then once we kind of start getting a handle of that, then I'm probably more comfortable letting things go externally little by little, because then you know what is a really good KPI. Yeah. If I'm paying you $500 a month, what does that mean to me, kind of thing.
So for us, we've been running ads here for almost 3 years. We're maxed out to the limit that we can, that I want to learn, not that I can learn, that I want to learn. And now it's about building a team.
Yeah, exactly.
And having somebody, and I don't want to hire an outside agency. I want to have the agency in-house, right? So finding the right people to deploy ads. We know how well a 4-minute ad does. Now we want to start targeting the people that watch 50% or more of that, right? With the next content and the next content. And, that's something that we need somebody in-house to know, what are the metrics? Here's the numbers. Okay, we need to do a little more on this topic. We need to change it over to this. And now it's time to do, this type of ad, not that type.
Yeah.
And I think you should. I think every business should learn this in the beginning so they know a little bit about it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I know some things about a camera. I'm never going to operate it.
Exactly.
But I know something that... if somebody else will come in here, I know I'm not getting taken advantage of. Right? That's the main thing. And then after that, hiring the right people to deploy.
Absolutely, and you have to know what is right for your company as well. You only know what's right for your company if you've done it yourself before. Because there's tons of social media marketing people out there that they're experts, and you pay them X amount, they'll do it for you, kind of thing. But if you don't know what your brand needs or what your company needs, it will be harder for you to go and find those correct people.
I've been looking for these guys for the past 2 months. They all respond back to one thing: I can get you more likes. It's not about likes. It's not about brand. I don't care if I get 1,000 likes or 10,000 or a million. I care about if I can add value to one person.
Yeah.
I'm more worried about that. That's my main thing, right? Brand recognition, getting that stuff out there, not the sales and not the likes, and finding somebody that can do that has been a challenge, especially in Vancouver.
Yeah, I guess we already have a naturally smaller industry for that.
Yeah, that needs to be sourced out to somewhere else.
Yeah.
From Mohammed, I'm starting an online clothing business and I need suggestions and tips. What things should I be putting first? What mistakes or blunders should I avoid?
Like they haven't started at all.
There's, I guess, things to avoid when you're starting out and things you should be focusing on.
I think kind of to our earlier point about knowing what you're good at and knowing what you need to outsource. Because, for example, our website, our online. So initially I had thought, because I've built a Squarespace website before with my other consulting business. And I was like, oh, you know what? I can probably do this. It's easy enough, drop in and all that. And then you realize, especially as an online business, that's your storefront to the world. And that's not my expertise. So then I started looking, you know what, probably Squarespace is not the right one. So I started looking into Shopify. And I realized that's not great for me because I'm not going to spend 100 hours a week in the beginning trying to figure out how this is going to work best for me. So I actually went and got 6 different quotes from a bunch of different web developers. And I found one that I really, really like. And he built it. And he made it so seamless and easy to do and easy to handle. But I did the cash outlay for that. Had I gone the Shopify side or the Squarespace side of doing it myself, the amount of stuff or time I would have probably trashed just doing that was not. So I'm quite happy with what we ended up with. So in terms of just identifying and being self-aware of what you're good at, what you're not good at, and trying to find those people that will fill in those missing skills gaps right off the bat. I was very lucky from the beginning that I didn't go through too many different people not knowing what I needed. So I was very lucky to find a really good team right off the bat for that. And then I guess if it's an online business and you're selling product, finding your suppliers and getting a really good relationship with them right off too. Yeah. Because you'll probably go through a couple and you'll probably spend some money on prototyping. There's no way around that. There's no way around potentially spending money to go out to meet them and do all of that stuff. So just making sure that you're not going too far down the path with the wrong vendors or suppliers is probably the second thing for online.
Yeah, I would focus on one thing at a time, especially for somebody new. If you're in there for a couple of years, then you can manage multiple SKUs. That's fine. But I would focus on one SKU. Right?
Actually, that too. Focus is a huge one because when you see how many things that you potentially have to do just to get launched, you're going to be overwhelmed and you're going to be like, I don't want to do this. So take it goal by goal. And maybe what I did, I wrote 6 goals every single day. And then I wrote the priority of which goal needs to be accomplished today. If I had to cut off my day today and I can only achieve that one, that's the one I'd be happy with. So I did that because especially as an entrepreneur, there's no one telling you what you need to do or no one telling you what time to wake up in the morning. So the only source of motivation is yourself and making sure that you have your own goals. So that was my personal goal of launching on May 15th, having 6 goals a day. That was my way of keeping track with everything. So focus is a big one because there's 10 million things you could do.
Yeah, but if I go a little deeper in that, if I go into not the development side for the self-development side, but if I just go to your business in the suit side, you're focusing on the suit, female suit.
Oh yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Now what happens is, and I'm using Warren Buffett's words here, there's bolt-ons of a company. So now you have suits. Okay, now I can get shoes on later on. Now what else can I add? I can add blouse. I can add earrings, or I can there's so many other things you can add on there, and that's what I'm getting at here. Focus on one thing because most people will get out there. It's like, okay, I'm gonna do men's line. I'm gonna do everything. I'm gonna do socks and underwears and t-shirts and jeans and beanies and it's too much. One, just like you guys here, and then after that add, because when you have your demographic, let's just say your demographic is I'm just guessing now, say 30 to 45 females, right? Income of 80,000 plus, VP title. Okay, great, you have that demographic. You can run Facebook ads against that demographic on just about anything. Yeah. Right. What are they? The clothing side, right? Shoes. Okay, promote the shoes when you have it. Yeah. I don't know what else. Yeah. But
yeah,
that's how you can market to them and.
Yeah, And when you have a smaller amount of SKUs, you can go and experiment a lot faster as well, because you can see what works in terms of ads or elsewhere, and then you can see what products do or don't work, and you can get rid of them or add them as
all this
fast.
stuff comes down to financial, right? When McDonald's and Tim Hortons, when they look at the financial statements at the end of the year, every quarter, those guys look at it daily or every quarter. They'll look at like, okay, what makes money? This, then, okay, we keep this. All this stuff we're gonna get rid of. Let's try something else.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And the same thing with business. Like, if you look at a certain company, and I see quite a bit of them, they have different divisions, right? And those divisions should be different companies because they're doing multiple different things. And you see that 80% of the income is coming from this one sector, but 50% the expenses are coming from, the other two, divisions that should be companies. Like, why? Get rid of those.
Yeah.
Right? Everything changes. So, the main focus.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, and that's the thing about being a startup. You're so much more agile than, say, a company that's been around for 30 years. Because, yes, you might have all those divisions, but I'm sure there's other ways or reasons why you wouldn't keep it or all that stuff. Whereas startup, you're starting from scratch. You can do whatever you want, really. It's like navigating a cruise ship versus a jet ski.
No, but this is one of the things I see in a lot of startups. They want to do a lot of things at once in the beginning. Yeah. And that's the failure. Yeah, you just got to focus on.
Yeah, that's what we did. Actually, we, dresses, for example, we wanted to do sheath dresses right off the bat. I was thinking it was going to be easy enough. We actually had to cut those two products because we didn't know that for made-to-measure sheath dresses, it's actually a lot more complicated because of the way the clothing drapes. So, to your point, we wanted to do that. We had to cut it, and so we're still trying to figure out how to do that.
That's good.
Yeah.
You can come back to that later on.
Yeah, it's still on our products that we want to do, and people have been asking about it, but we're trying to figure out how that works for all our different body sizes and types.
Nice.
So, yeah.
So this is kind of, we'll piggyback off, it's similar to what we were just saying, but it's from Roma. It's your best advice for starting a clothing company. We can just maybe keep it broad, last words for best advice to start a company or clothing company in particular.
Oh.
You want to start on this one?
Yeah.
Roma, just start.
Yeah, actually.
That's it. Because the more you sit down and think about it, and I've said this message over and over again, you're just going to talk yourself out of it. It's going to be hard. Or you're going to take advice from people that have never started, and they're going to tell you that, you got to get a loan, you got to go get this, and you got to work, and it's just start.
Just do it.
You just start. If your purpose in life is to have a retail online clothing store, start.
Yeah, and if it's not, do it. Fail fast and fail hard really quickly.
Or fail slow. Doesn't matter. Just as long as you did it, and at the end of your life you feel fulfilled that you actually did that. That's all it comes down to. You don't want to leave this world with like, oh shit, I worked 9 to 5 at Lululemon instead of, you know what? From the age of 25 to 30, I started something. Yeah. And I grew it, or it didn't work.
I mean, what I mean is like when you fail fast, fail hard. I just do it and kind of close your eyes and just get tunnel vision and just go and do it, because like to your point, if you wait and wait and wait, and I know some people that have been running side hustles, which is great, but they've been doing that for the last 2-3 years and not getting the traction they want because they're still kind of 1 foot into the business, into their business, and then 1 foot into a 9 to 5. Whereas if you're kind of in it, you can figure it out right away if it's for you or not. And entrepreneurship and starting a company will tell you right away if it's made for you or not, because you're going to get a lot of no's before you get a lot of yeses. So if it's not for you, you'll know right away. Mm-hmm. So that's what I mean by like getting in there, doing it fast and seeing how it goes.
And observe the no's. Once you hear a no, don't take that personally. Just it is what it is, right? Yeah. And you just come back, and maybe 2 months later it's going to be a yes, or 20 years later it's going to be a yes. But there's going to be somebody else that's going to step in and do it if somebody says no. Yeah,
well, that was the hardest thing that I had to adjust to on the mental side, because I worked 9 to 5s from my 20s till my 30s, and doing that switch off to now not having a boss, doing all that stuff, that was the hardest part, because every day...
What's hard about that?
Well, for me, because I was always looking for a validation outside of... So it's either your paycheck, a bonus, a good job, a thank you email, whatever it is, that was a validation that I didn't know I was always kind of chasing for. When you start, especially when you haven't even started up yet, you don't get any of that. You don't have someone telling you whether you did a good job or a thank you, or... you don't have a paycheck necessarily. So for me, that was something that I had to really adjust to, and the self-awareness of I was always chasing for that validation, whether subconsciously or not. But now I'm like, I don't even care if I say yes or no. If someone, to your point, if it's one person that said, oh, had a positive impact, or one person that converted to a sale, I'm super stoked. Like, as Patricia, one sale, I'm like, this is amazing. But it'll get.
You know, one thing I learned, for me, it's not cashing in the check. It's getting the deal and getting it done makes me more excited.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not looking at the bottom number necessarily. I'm just like last week there was a lady who came in from New West. She found us just through Google, not through friends, not through real estate, nothing. But she just found us through Google. Engineer came in there. She got a bunch of suits from us, but that was super fulfilling. I didn't even care how much she spent. It was just the fact that she found us from somewhere else organically, and now she's gonna go and tell other people about it. That's the coolest part. So.
Oh, who said it? It's a big business guy. He goes, the best marketer is your best client that has a big mouth.
This is
awesome.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, because those are going to be your people that are going to sponsor you out there. They're going to say, hey, check this out, kind of thing. So, yeah, you never know who you're going to meet.
Yeah, I like that. Anything else?
That's all I got for you.
Perfect.
Awesome.
Well, thanks for coming down.
Yeah, happy to come in.
Where can we find you online and?
So our website is www.sewt.ca, and then our Instagram is just SEWT official, Sewt official. Anywhere you go, LinkedIn, Instagram, Pinterest. What else do we have? Facebook. There's a lot of them.
Yeah, we'll get everything linked.
Okay, awesome.
Perfect. All right, guys. Until next time.